Three.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. We are so happy that you're here with us. I'm Jessica Hadari, and this is a monthly training call or a Zoom session that I do every month with the women who speak at my events. And we are all part of just a really beautiful, deep, soulful mastermind together where we share resources. We come together on calls like this. We come together live for networking lunches and candlelight mastermind circles. And we decided for these summer Zoom sessions to open it up to the entire FemTalks community, and are so grateful that you're here with us for a little summer session. So what I'm going to do before I introduce our amazing guest today is to just take a moment to light a candle. And you may be in a place where you're able to also light a candle. Otherwise, you can just enjoy vicariously. And we're just going to take a moment to really intend to just shift gears and to come to this call from a place of grounded presence. So if you're in a place where you can actually lean back and even close your eyes, I'm going to do the same thing, and just to invite your breath in and just stay connected to the breath throughout our time together. And even though we're not physically in space with one another, to just reach out with your ethereal hands and just really notice, attune to, feel, and recognize the other beautiful, wise women who are here, who are present today, who are in this virtual circle with you. The women to your right, the women to your left, and just even in this virtual space, really feeling the hearts and the wisdom of the women who, this perfect constellation of women who've chosen to come together today. So we'll just end our mini meditation just taking a deep breath together, deep breath in and out. Awesome. I'll go ahead and put my candle where we can all see it, leave that light for us. And we're here today to talk about how to create your seven-figure brand, your seven-figure online presence, and what that really means to me on more of a transformational level and a more spiritual level is that I really believe, I know that when prosperity, money, when abundance is in the hands of conscious women and conscious women healers, this world will truly be a different place. And so we are all in the birthing pains and in a beautiful transition of women taking roles of leadership, being seen and heard in ways that we haven't for thousands of years. And that includes being in this conscious conversation about how to reclaim our prosperity, how to reclaim our birthright to be the healers, the teachers, the matriarchs of our communities, our culture, and our future. And so this topic today is just so in alignment with just like, let's talk about it, ladies. Let's clean it up. Let's elevate. Let's step forward together. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our lovely Marisa, and along with some of the technical stuff that was happening a little bit earlier, my bio that I had ready to read for her kind of disappeared. So I'm just going to give a personal, loving introduction, and then anything you want to say, Marisa, is totally, the floor will be yours. So I've known Marisa for a few years, and she's one of those women that it's like I've known her for about 10 years, and known of her and been watching her, and she's always one of those women I want to get to know a little bit more. When we've connected on the phone and had conversations together, I so appreciate her come from. She really leads with such heart, such presence, but there's also that precision, that ability to really take women step by step through what it is we need to do to grow, to expand, to elevate our businesses. So I love that she really carries the heart and the softness and the feminine leadership that includes, us coming all, bringing us all together and collaboration and really open sourcing all of this. But she also has that the leadership in terms of being a mentor, being a trainer, and being someone that I gladly follow and just love to hear. I love hearing more from her. So that's my warm personal introduction to Marisa. Marisa, I'm going to pass the spotlight completely to you. The floor is yours. I'm going to mute myself, but feel free to call on me if you need me. So let's put our virtual hands together from Marisa Murgatroyd.
All right. Thank you for that intro. And I remember meeting you so long ago, and we felt like different worlds at that point in time. And what I do is my full name is Marisa Murgatroyd, and I run a company called Live Your Message. And we work with all kinds of emerging entrepreneurs, as well as 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs. So I've built brands for people like Callan Rush and Justin Livingston and Bill Barron, Danny Eny, Sage Levine, Susan Peirce Thompson, Robbins Madonna's training. A lot of people who are visionaries in our space. So what I love to share is kind of some of the secret sauce and the magic behind how we've done these brands for so many people. And it's one of my favorite things to do, to translate the essence of who someone is into form. And the reason why I say it's so important these days is it used to be the internet was not such a saturated place. And I imagine a lot of you have a local following and you want to grow an online following. And the amount of just noise that's out there is so much more intense than it ever was before. So I think how people evaluate you is really changing. So I used to say that it was enough just to, I say right now that we live in this 3 yes world, but I call it the head yes, the heart yes, and the visceral yes, or the gut yes. And it used to be that if you just had like a logical argument as to why your product, your service, your work was good, it was enough. And then, marketing got more sophisticated and really got into the emotional realm, and because people really buy with their hearts. But now with so many different options and a lot less trust and more skepticism from buyers who've been, burned before by people who know how to market, this third yes is becoming more important. And it's what I call the visceral yes, the gut yes. And that's the alignment between everything that you are and all of who you are and the signals you're sending out so someone can tell that you're the real deal. And a lot of times it happens through amplifying what makes you authentically you, what makes you truly stand out. And the challenge with that is for so many people, what makes you authentically you is both the thing that can move you forward and elevate your business and your brand unlike anything else. And for most people, it's also their Achilles heel. It's something that we've been censored for being our entire lives. As children, we were too much, to fill in the blank, right? Too sensitive, you name it. And so that part of ourselves, which is our authentic self, a lot of times got shut down as a survival mechanism and coping mechanism for the world that wasn't ready to receive all of us. And now, however many years later, 30 years later, 40 years later, 20 years later, it doesn't matter. That's the piece that's going to separate us from the noise and allow us to stand out from a billion websites online and really get our message out there. So what I'm going to show you is some of the process that I use to get to the core of what someone's message is, and knowing that so much of this is about amplifying and turning up the dial on what makes you unique. And it could be something that you express and opening your expression to express it even more than feels comfortable. Because that's when you start to be heard. Because a lot of times it's not just you, it's you amplified. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and go into the core teaching and the core training. I do like this to be interactive. I'm going to be asking you to really jump into the chat and let me know and answer certain questions and participate in this. So if everyone can just quickly say hi in the chat and where you're from, just to get warmed up to the chat. And then I'm going to jump in. I'm going to start to make this super interactive and want to hear from you, because the way that I teach, kind of requires some interaction and some engagement. So yes, I've got Lynn from San Jose, Anna from Oakland, Usha from Morgan Hill in the South Bay, Dusty from Oakland, and I'm a California too. I'm from Marina Del Rey, but down south, which is why I said I wore my I'm the Boss t-shirt for all of you today. Because with ladies, we're stepping forward as the bosses, not in necessarily a lady balls way, because we can be our full feminine self as the boss, and we don't have to strap on a pair, in order to be a boss today. And a lot of times it's our feminine grace and our beauty that allows us to be all of us and not have to shirk away from our femininity or our sensuality or our sexuality or any of that. to be an integrated whole in the marketplace. And as a brand, it's interesting because I do think that people sometimes judge female brands more than they judge male brands. The number of times when I ran the superhero summits and I wore a cat suit, or I was sitting in a certain way where my legs were slightly opened, right? People actually write to me to tell me, I can't believe you're wearing a cat suit. It's like anti-feminine. I'm like, no, the new feminine is embracing my whole power. It includes embracing my beauty and my central power as well as my brains, because I'm smart and I'm not going to hide that either. And people are like, I don't like the way you sit. I said, well, why don't you listen to what I have to say, you know? And you don't need to point that kind of stuff out. But it's funny because as women leaders, and even if you look at Hillary Clinton in the elections, and she's kind of a woman leader who felt the need to act more like a man, but you will notice that there's a lot of interesting judgment that comes when a woman steps forward. So what I want to show you is how to step forward in full authenticity and embrace all that you are, no matter what anybody has to say about it, because that's where your power comes from. All right? So let's go into this. Here's the main slides. So I'm curious, who here has felt the full power of the sun? You know, if you've laid out in the sun, you've felt its warmth just spreading through your body. So let me know in the chat if you felt the full power of the sun and you know what that feels like. You can actually feel it in your body right now. Just let me know in the chat, yes, if that's you. All right, yes, love it, yes, Lynn and Ann, sweet. So here's the thing that's really interesting. The sun actually shines with 385 septillion watts. So that's basically 385 watts with 17 zeros after it. It's a huge amount of power. It's a huge amount of heat and energy. And here's the thing, though, that's really interesting, that you can stand in the sun for minutes without getting burnt. So if you compare that to the intensity of a laser beam just has 5 watts of energy. Not a whole lot of energy compared to the sun, but when you focus that 5 watts of energy so intensely into one precise point, then you can really cut through a diamond. And that's the power of focus. So I'm curious, and I want to ask you, when it comes to your business, if you're given the choice to be like the sun or to be like the laser, what would you choose? So just let me know in the chat if you would choose to be more like the sun or more like the laser. And be totally honest here, right? Go ahead and let me know. So I see laser, I see sun, I see both in the chat. And I hear you, because who doesn't want to be like the sun, to get to shine on everyone and everything, right? To be that full expansive version of who you are. But here's the challenge. The problem is that when you try to shine like the sun from a marketing perspective in particular, your light gets lost. Because in a world of over 1 billion websites, 99% of people that are trying to attract customers online and offline, because this works in how you show up offline too, are trying to shine like the sun. And because of that, they're just not getting seen. So what I'm going to teach you today, which is one of the 4 master keys that I teach, is called the clarity key. And it's all about learning how to focus your light like a laser so you can be seen and heard in everything else that's going on, the vast online universe, right? So this is part of what I call the Experience Business Blueprint. And sorry, I should have cut out the page numbers since it's part of a larger presentation. So this blueprint looks super deceptive. And I'm going to show this to you piece by piece and really reveal each individual piece so you can understand how all of this fits together. So I'm going to show you how to just build your message one layer at a time. And while you do need every single piece in this blueprint, no single piece alone is actually going to allow you to focus your message like a laser. It's all the pieces together that gives you the feeling of focus and that laser focused message that's really going to be heard. So really the thing that you need to know about this Experience Business Blueprint is that the magic happens in the intersections between the circles. And it's all of the pieces coming together in a very unique way that's uniquely designed to you and around you that creates that authentic brand in that business that you're building. So I'm going to dive in, okay? And like I said, this blueprint is a lot deeper than it appears. And I actually lead a whole 3-day retreat just around developing all of the pieces in this blueprint, okay? So just know, even though I'm going to go super fast, that you can spend a significant amount of time defining each of the 7 pieces that you see here on the screen. And I just want to give you a tour of each piece because we don't have a lot of time today. So every time you go back to this, though, you can gain a new level of clarity, whether you're using this blueprint to get clarity on your product, your business as a whole, or maybe on a single product or single offer. This works whether you're branding yourself, your business, or an individual product, service, or offer. And this is the foundation of pretty much everything in your business. And so many people try to bypass this foundation and get into the fancier marketing and product development and scaling and leverage and all of that. And if you don't have this dialed in, it's super hard to build on top of it because you don't have that base in place. This is the light that basically powers your business and the clarity of focus that really allows you to channel that light like a laser. Okay, so let's start with the very top of the blueprint here. And that's what you offer. So almost everybody starts their business with what they actually do for people. You know, it's like you can't help yourself because it's your expertise, it's your product, it's the meat and potatoes of your business and what you do for people. But there's a problem if you focus too much on what you do, and that it's really, really hard to stand out through what you do alone. And chances are, if you've got a niche that's at all profitable, there are a lot of other people who are doing something similar, all right? So here's the thing. If I were to share my message only saying what I do, I may say something along the lines of I build websites and online brands. And I actually have 3 parts of my company, so this is only describing the part which is our branding agency. But if I were to only say what I did in our branding agency, I would just say something like I build websites and online brands. So let me ask you, based on just what I do alone, who wants to work with me? Let me know in the comments if you would choose to work with me based on just simply hearing that I build websites and online brands, right? Go ahead and let me know in the chat, and don't worry about offending me. I'm here to make a point, so I don't mind if you say no. Okay, so Anne says nah, Dusty says maybe, M. Ramsey says nope. Anybody else have an opinion about that? Go ahead and flex your muscles when it comes to perceiving this messaging. Not enough info says Usha, probably not, says Binja, and ditto says Ursula. Excellent. You're right. I wouldn't. So really what you want, if you want to become more competitive, and by competitive, you're not competing against anyone, but you're being more you and kind of becoming so resonant that you draw people towards you, is to create a market of one, where you're the only person doing what you do in the way that you do it. So with that billion websites online and 3.56 billion people online, you've got to go beyond what you do, which is where these other 6 pieces come into handy. So the next piece is who you serve, right? Super important to understand who you serve. Now, if I were just to craft a message around who I serve, I might say something like, I work with online entrepreneurs. Now, based on that, who wants to work with me now? Anyone? Anyone interested in working with me, or people who make their living using, at least a good part of their income using some kind of internet marketing? So no, maybe, not sure. Exactly, right? It's not a lot of information. All right, thank you. Keep it coming. So here's the thing. Like I said, in this model, the magic happens in the intersection, and there are 3 distinct intersections. And the first one is the most basic that you've probably heard the most about, and that's the idea of niche. Now, niche is the intersection of who you serve and what you have to offer. So when you focus on a niche, which is your specialization, that's super important. It's the very first choice to make as an entrepreneur, because without a niche, you can't have a profitable business. And niches can range to being broad to being specific. And it's a lot easier to start specific and then broaden out once you achieve more success. So I want to give you an example of a more broad niche, and then I'll give you an example of a specific niche where I say what I do and who I do it for. So if I were to just use those simple pieces I showed you earlier, I would say I build websites and brands for online entrepreneurs. So let me know, would you work with me just based on that? I build websites and brands for online entrepreneurs. Who would work with me based on that? Let me know in the chat. Now, while you're doing that, I want to show you what happens when we get more specific. Here, it's more specific. I build branded sites for online entrepreneurs who've reached 7 or 8 figures, but when you look at their site, you can't tell, right? Is that more specific? Does that help you more, show that kind of who I help and start to create a picture of who that might be or what situation this would apply to? Is this getting better? Yep, that's just the difference between a broad niche and a specific niche, but it's still missing a lot. So I see that you're saying it's getting better, right? And it's still missing a lot because this is just one of 3 intersections. And like I said, the magic happens when you bring all of the pieces together, all 7 pieces. So now, based on this, I see a few of you are saying it's better. You might be more inclined to work with me. And at least you understand basically who I help and what I do for the people I help, right? You understand that at this point in time, at the very least. All right? But now let me ask you, who can think of someone immediately who might need this, what I just said, which is someone who's reached 7 or 8 figures, but when you look at their stuff, you can't tell how successful that they are. Can anyone here immediately think of someone who fits that criteria? They're successful, they're making good amount of money, but all this stuff maybe doesn't look and sound that good, and you wonder how successful they possibly could be with all of that. So let me know if you can think of anyone. So I see a few people saying no, not really. Nope, okay. Well, so let's see, let's get more specific. Dusty says 1 person. I have actually a lot of friends who fit this particular bill. They're 7 figures, they're 8 figures, but their stuff, I've rebranded many of them, so they're all getting better. So now let's look at how you're different, right? How are you different? Now this is where it starts to get super interesting. So the question for you is, what makes you different? Now, a lot of people, when it comes to what makes them different, they answer in a very superficial way. Like they say, I could say I'm 4'11" and a quarter, which I am. And a lot of times that helps people connect more to me because I'm little, right? And it's kind of cute and it's kind of a funny thing to say. But ultimately, it's not all that relevant. It doesn't help people identify with me and what I believe and why they're kind of be interested in working with me, right? So the rabbit hole on how you're different goes really, really deep. And there are a lot of different angles on this, and I'm just going to gloss over some. One angle of how you're different is your story. And this is my personal trainer, Melissa. And here's the thing about Melissa. She came to one of my meetup groups, and the next day she was training me, and she says, Marisa, I've just been thinking over and over again, all night long since I left this training, how am I different? And I just can't think of anything whatsoever. And so I started to ask her a couple of questions. And when I asked her some questions, she kept being like, yeah, well, there's nothing about this that makes me different. But I was able to uncover that she ultimately is from Romania and that she grew up dirt poor. She grew up so poor that she had to share 1 pair of shoes between 3 sisters. And after school, she would go to the gym. And that was her place. It's like she felt like she could fly because at the time, Nadia Comaneci was a famous Romanian gymnast. And all the girls in Romania wanted to become a gymnast, so they thought that that was their way out. So that time when she was able to have the shoes and go to the gym, she really thought it was like her time where she was totally free and she could fly. And so I said, well, maybe this is a story that you should start telling because what you do is help people create that moment of freedom and possibility in the midst of their days. And she just started to go and tell the story. And once she started telling the story, she came back the next week and said, you wouldn't believe it, Marisa. I started telling that story and I got 2 new clients. More than that, they both paid me more than I'd ever asked for before. So simply sharing the right story behind why you do what you do can make a huge difference. And also, what do you value? A lot of times people choose to work with people who share their values and their beliefs. My client, Mark Head, is actually in the health insurance industry, but he works kind of doing corporate wellness with a lot of big corporations. And when he did this exercise, it's like he came alive because before he felt like he had to be very corporate, right? And when he wrote his values, it's really funny. His personality started to come out. He said, know your shit, live your shit, give a shit, discover what they want, know what you want, go for what you want, discover how they feel, trust how you feel, trust how they feel, deliver more than they expect, and sooner rather than later, it needs to work. And it's funny because when he started to identify this, he was really different than a lot of other people in his industry because the insurance industry isn't full of people who give a shit and who really care whether it works or not for people. So this really helped him differentiate himself pretty quickly. Then, of course, there's personality. And this is my student, Stephanie Lahart. And she's the kind of person, if you give her the mic, watch out. You will not get it back for a good amount of time, right? And if you don't get this back, she's just going to go off to the races. But when she walks in the room, she's got so much personality that it really differentiates her. We ended up branding her Social Stephanie because her personality is really the core piece of her brand. Then there's methodology. Perhaps you lead with your unique methodology of what it is that you do and how you do it in a way that nobody else does it, so you can uniquely deliver results that other people perhaps can't. This is my client, Michael Hancock's. And Michael Hancock's runs an environmental consulting firm called Skio. And he helps people transcend finite natural resources through infinite human potential, which is super powerful. And I helped him create this framework, basically, that shows how something that seemingly feels like a contradiction could actually be true, especially when people talk about the environment. So what we ended up doing is he had named his podcast previously something like Equitable Opportunity Radio. And I was like, that's preaching to the converted. And we rebranded it to Infinite Earth Radio, which creates contradiction in people's minds. It's actually compelling and memorable because most people wouldn't agree that the earth is infinite. But when you understand both the natural capital, the social capital, the physical capital, and the human capital, and you make decisions based on all four, then you can leverage human potential to make something finite actually appear infinite. So we created this brand for him. Now that's just one of the intersections, right? So when you look at the intersection of how you're different, there's actually two intersections. There's value and there's tribe. So let's go into value first. So value relates specifically to how you're different and what you offer. It's the differentiation of your products and your services and everything that you actually do for people, right? So this is your competitive advantage of why people choose to work with you over everybody else who does what you do. It's your promise. It's your unique way of doing what you do, serving your tribe, and really achieving an outcome that nobody else can. So when I talk about this, and we have a lot of clients who are very successful, we say we build branded sites that are designed for both appearance and results to create a unique brand experience while also increasing your conversions and your return on investment. Now that's only talking about how what we do is different from what other people do, because most people who are web designers, they know either how to make things look good or how to convert, and then they let the brand go to the wayside. We really operate at the intersection of both of these things. So that's the value that we offer. But again, there could be something missing, but I'm curious, based on that value, who would be interested in working with me? Anyone interested just on that unique value? And I know not all of you are in that particular demographic, but just understanding that we're creating sites that balance an incredible brand experience and the conversion aspect of how to make that site profitable and embed your customer pathway, your customer journey, and your product lines into your website, so you know exactly what people are going to do on every single page, right? And how to turn them into customers on every single page. So getting better works better, says Dusty and says Ursula. And yet there's still something missing. That's the intersection of who you serve and how you're different, which is your tribe. So your tribe is the kind of people that you attract. And it's impacted by the look, feel, tone, and spirit of what you do. So Simon Sinek always says, your job is not to attract everybody who needs what you do. It's to attract those who believe what you believe. So when I want to focus on just tribe, remember, it's not just who I serve, but it's how I'm different to who I serve. So a lot of times what I say is I turn entrepreneurs into online superheroes. I turn entrepreneurs into online superheroes. And once I do that, the very next question out of people's mouths is usually something along the lines of, how do you do that? Or tell me more. It's creating curiosity. So of course I've got that backed up with something that I could say that's a bit longer. I help people be the most bold, colorful, vibrant expressions of who they are online, because in this day and age, it's the only way to cut through the noise of a billion websites and actually be seen. That's how you become a superhero. And we do that with websites, branding, messaging, and storytelling that's authentic to you, right? But I don't really lead with all of this. I only say it when people start to ask me questions. And a lot of times they start to ask me questions when I lead with something that intrigues them. And saying that I turn entrepreneurs into online superheroes oftentimes intrigues them because it doesn't allow them to put me in a box and put a label on it, because they don't actually know what that means. But it's still interesting enough that it creates curiosity. And usually after all of that, they're like, hey, do you have a card? And just simply that, it creates a very different impression than how most people introduce themselves and say what they do. So I'm curious, when you hear all the different aspects, when you hear who I serve and what I do and how I'm different, the niche and the tribe and the value, is this becoming more compelling? Are you interested in working with me now? So very effective says Dusty. Lynn says yes, all caps. M. Ramsey says love it. Right. It's getting more and more compelling. Anne says yes, and Nancy says yes too. Like, thank you. Now there's still the piece in the middle, which is your brand. And your brand is at the intersection of all of these things, right? It's at the intersection of all of these things. It's when you consistently do all of these things. So it's what I call the invisible layer of meaning that's around your business. And it's created through the clear and consistent use of language, of symbols, of experiences that convey trust and convey distinction. So brand actually separates your business from other similar businesses in the hearts and minds of your audience. Brand is both the left brain and the right brain. It's logic as well as artistry and creativity and magic. So you create brand equity when you continue to kind of convey these signals day after day, month after month, year after year. And this process of branding adds a huge amount of value to your business and allows you to charge a premium for your products and services. So if you have an unbranded offer, there's often a ceiling to what you can charge for it. But when you brand yourself and you brand your products, it's able to increase the perceived value, the perceived quality, the emotional attachment that your tribe is feeling towards your business. So we've created this business, Live Your Message. Our tagline is Be the Superhero to Your Tribe. And people really love our business. So we have people who send us pictures wearing our Live Your Message t-shirts. We've got a whole line of Live Your Message t-shirts. I actually see a lot of thought leaders have been wearing them too on their webinars and things like that. You know me from the internet, be the superhero to your tribe, take to the sky, it's your time to fly. We've got a whole line of them and one that just says Live Your Message as well. So branding is the art and science of creating meaningful differentiation. And I've helped so many of my students and my clients and my customers go from being brandless to being branded. And I wanted to give you an example, and I know Christelle's in your community, so I added her first. So Christelle, we came up with this. So she's introducing herself to people. Like I say, I turn entrepreneurs into online superheroes. This is what we came up for her because she's in my mastery program. I help women remember that she is the healer that she's looking for, right? Because the ultimate promise of her work that we really decided on is to be the healer you're looking for. So we flip that into this phrase. I do work with men too. I'm only going to give one example of a man here, but Jesse Krieger, who has a publishing imprint. I help authors change the world with their words. He used to say, build their platform and their website and publish their books and all of that. But remember, when you lead with something that's more curiosity-inducing, it's the difference between push marketing, where you're kind of like pushing your message and everything that you do onto someone before they're ready to hear, and pull messaging, which is more like flirtation, where you actually give them such a tiny tease or taste that they're interested in knowing more, and they say, tell me more, and then you follow it up with, so they're asking you. You're not giving it to them before they've asked. So Dr. Julia Lewis, I give life back to the chronically ill, right? So every single one of these has a lot more power and potency than the way most people introduce themselves. Erin Browder. I just came up with this one for her yesterday, which is awesome. I help leaders lead with all of them so they can inspire all in those they lead. I help leaders lead with all of them so they can inspire all in those they lead. So you need to be able to pass that first impression when you meet someone new and they ask what you do and they're just fully expect to just put you in a box with everybody else. Break that box by being interesting, by having all 7 layers of the Experience Business Blueprint that I gave you in what it is that you say. Michelle Bongiorno. I help change makers overcome the stubborn last remnants of I can't and I'm not, once and for all, so they become possibility manifest. So we chose possibility manifest as her ultimate result that all of her products and services amount to. So we wove that phrase, possibility manifest, into this, what I call an XYZ statement to introduce herself to other people. Jane Gwynn. I help couples heal their relationships, get what they want in the bedroom, and juice up their life. So we had chosen juicy life as the ultimate promise of her work. And we reverse engineered this statement from there. Zach Luitis. It's like a Greek name. I think I got it right now. I guide men and women silently suffering with depression, anxiety, and confusion to discover their truth, find bliss in the everyday, and create a life they want to wake up to. So the ultimate promise of her work is to find bliss in everything. Of course, when people are first hearing that, it's unattainable, but it's something that they can aspire to and just begin to be drawn in to imagining it's possible for them. And even for nonprofits, this is Dawn Thompson. She runs a nonprofit called Improving Birth. And the ultimate promise of her work is safer birth for all. So she can say to people, I arm people with the tools to make birth safer for all. It's not just mothers, it's doctors, it's transgendered couples, and all kinds of people who want to really be involved in birth as professionals, lots of people. And here's Dominique Bertolucci. So even when you've got a softer topic, because Dominique Bertolucci is an author and she works in personal development, here's what she says. I help ambitious women get the life they want while loving the life they got. Her ultimate promise is get the life you want, love the life you've got, because a lot of people sacrifice one for the other. And really, when you're able to be in the gap of desire while still loving all that you are and feeling enough, that's when you can continue to grow and evolve and achieve more and more and more. So I hope you can see there's so many different ways to do this and really making your message come alive of what's super unique to you. And I love, like one of my favorite things to do is to translate the essence of who someone is into the words and the images and the experiences of their brand. Like crack the code on their messaging and see how much it makes sense then to them and to everyone they talk to. And it just gives like this true north compass direction to their business that's super exciting. But here's the thing that I want to leave you with before we go to Q&A. So in a world where we're just flooded with information, like over 1 billion websites online, that's one website for every 7 people on the planet, 866 million news sites coming on every year. That's 570 news sites a minute, 54 million Facebook pages, over 300 hours of YouTube video uploaded every single minute, and all of the opportunities that people have to buy services and products and experiences like yours. In a world where we're just starved for time, where the average human attention span has dropped to just 8.25 seconds, which is less than a goldfish. And for most Americans, half of their leisure time is dedicated to, watching TV. And if you look at devices now, I'd say most of it. So different really matters. It's what I call the breath of life. Like a lot of times for many people, especially if you're creating, is like the way people are taught to build businesses. Most people are taught to build either a cookie cutter business or a copycat business. And it's like you have all of the sticks and the strings, right? But you haven't blown the life into that business. You've got all the elements, but it's about blowing the life into that business so it comes alive for you and for your tribe and allows you to be heard over the noise of 1 billion websites. And ultimately, that's what this process does for you. When you really find and crack the code on the unique words and the brand and the message and the positioning, it's like you now have that breath of life that allows your business to stand for something more for you and for others. It's what I call your true north business when you really have that. I actually shifting it from the experience business to the true north business. But you have a true north business when all these pieces come together to create something much greater than the sum of its parts. Your business is no longer an idea, a concept, a product, or a service. It's a feeling, a resonance that instantly conveys all that you are and all that's possible when someone joins your tribe. So whether someone's experiencing you first in person or online, your message, the words you speak, how you show up, what you offer, and everything that you do lines up to create a unique experience that can't be found anywhere else. This is how you become a superhero to your tribe, and this is how you stand out from the noise of 1 billion websites. It's the moment when your business takes on a life of its own, and you have the confidence and certainty that comes from knowing that you're doing exactly what you were put on this earth to do in the way that only you can do it. This is when you become the messenger behind your message. And now is the time to do it because the market that we're existing in has totally changed. It's not enough to put up a website. It's not enough to have a product. It's not enough to have a service. What's enough is you and being all of you to the people that you serve. So I like to say go out there and live your message, but I'll do that after I answer some questions. Oh, sorry, I think I muted you. So I was hearing some, there you go.
Hey, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for muting me.
It's okay.
So do you want to, we can either, sometimes what we'll do is we'll just unmute everyone and who speaks up first goes, or we can do it through the chat. What's your preference, Marisa?
It can get to be sound a little bit noisy. So why don't we just, if you want to do a question, say I want a question, and I'll unmute you and you can ask your question. We can kind of dialogue around it. Okay, let's see. Who has got a question for me? I know Jessica wanted to leave. Great, Dusty does. Some time for questions. Go ahead. Oops, there you go, Dusty.
Hey, I'm in a field where there's like tons of people, and it's not generally seen as like a healing field, and it's definitely personality driven. But every time it's like I try to think, when I go to networking groups, how am I unique? I just I kind of falter there. I just like, I give people what they want and a little more. And
yeah, you're entering with a cherry on top. Yes.
I don't know where to go.
And what I find, and in my experience, a lot of times it's people who've got more spiritual and personal development work and are a channel for so much to come through can have the most challenge with this. Because they're like, well, I'm not unique. I'm just part of this infinite oneness, right? And so how can I claim? Because isn't that about ego, right? But here's the thing. It's not ego. It's actually the bridge that allows people to connect with you. So I'm actually a pretty shy person. Like I'm pretty private. I don't like to share a lot of my life. But I realize that every story that I tell allows people to connect more to who I am, and therefore connect to my work, therefore connect to the transformation that I make possible. So what I'm doing here is clearly, I did come to this world in this incarnation for a particular reason. And knowing what are the gifts that I've brought uniquely in this form that I can talk about, that I can use to differentiate. So even if you don't realize it, you are different. When I was helping Michelle Bongiorno, and she was the one that we came up with Possibility in Manifest for her brand, she's so fluid because she becomes a container for every single person that she's working with. And I try to help her identify that moment, that like linchpin where she sort of opens things up for people, because helping everyone with every problem was what she was talking about. And she still had a multi-six-figure business because she's extraordinarily talented. So I helped her identify that moment, basically, that moment that people say, if they ask you, what is the biggest thing you want to change in your life? And then, well, why can't you change that thing? And if you wanted to change it, you would have changed it by now. And kind of understanding that a lot of times for many people, no matter how successful they are, that there's still something. That's like that reason why they're having trouble shifting that particular thing might be related to a core limiting belief, an Achilles heel, and a whole like network and infrastructure of internal like blocks and limitations and patterns that she helps them mine. So understanding that she helps change makers kind of eliminate the last remnants of I can't, or I won't, or I'm not, and really tap into that complete manifestation of all that is possible, right? So even with someone like her, we were able to drill down and drill down and drill down. And I'm sure with someone like you, you may not think that you're different, but you absolutely are. I mean, I see that you're looking different already. Yes, you work with hair, but there's so many, like I said, different is a little bit of a deeper rabbit hole, and there's so many aspects of who you are, and you can't choose to amplify every aspect. So a lot of times what I talk about when it comes to branding is, who here has actually heard of, know of Picasso's bulls? Have you ever seen Picasso's bulls? It's a really cool, I'm going to just kind of show it on the screen, because Picasso drew a series of 9 different bulls, and maybe it's 12 by the looks of this. And the really awesome thing about that is with every single bull, he got simpler and simpler and simpler. So I'm just going to be a mess showing my screen. But there you go. It got simpler and simpler and simpler. And until it's just a few different lines. In those few lines, you still know it's a bull, right? So if you removed one aspect of this, it might look like a deer, or it might look like a cow, or it might look like something else, but this looks like a bull. So a lot of times you can only choose to amplify, a few different signals at once, or you muddy the waters. And even looking at political history, something like a John Kerry, a lot of people didn't know who he was as a candidate. and he lost the election to George Bush because he tried to amplify so many aspects of himself and be this nuanced, complex person in his campaign. Now, you can be a nuanced, complex person, but there's like a difference between when someone's meeting you for the first time and how much they're able to receive versus that when someone's doing the deepest level of work with you and they get to know all the dimensions of who you are. And just understanding at the front, and there's a whole process obviously around this, of what to amplify. So you're that bull with just a few lines drawn. You are Dusty with just a few elements that you're choosing to amplify. And of course, knowing which elements to amplify, which dials to turn up, is kind of the art form behind this, as well as just strategy behind this. Right? I hope that helped. And I know could dive in and sort of work with you on that. And I know we've got some other questions here too. So Usha's saying, I've got a comment. My favorite phrase, blow life into your business. Love that. Excellent. M. Ramsey saying, I'm curious about the questions one can ask themselves to get to the how I'm different piece. Sure, I'm going to open that up for you. I mean, there's so many. It's beyond questions. There's like exercise after exercise after exercise, So within the story piece, I usually have about 20 different questions to unearth the story. But just looking at, what is the moment that you decided to do this work? Was it a lowest point that you rose up from? Was it a sickness, a challenge, a death? Was it a problem that you saw in the world that you wanted to change, right? Was it something that made you angry? And you realized instead of waiting for a horse in shining armor to come along, that like knight in shining armor on a white horse, that you were that knight in shining armor, right? So there's so many questions, like what were you doing when you're in the flow? What do you love most? What do you lay awake at night dreaming and scheming about? What is your vision for the world? All of these questions can help you get to the bottom of your story. When it comes to personality, it's like, who are you to yourself? Who are you to others? What are the core characteristics that define how people receive you? It's not just how you perceive yourself, it's how people receive you. And sometimes, the characteristics of how you perceive yourself and how others receive you are actually different.
Right.
So understanding how they're actually interacting, engaging with you. And I open the line for you on Ramsey. And when it comes to values, like choosing your core values, creating whole value statements around them. Like I said, this is actually a 3-day retreat. So you go so deep into every single one of these. And I've got about 3 exercises for every single one of these pieces that go pretty deep. And, all of it. So whatever piece it is with the methodology in terms of determining your framework and how you do what you do and understanding how to brand that piece of things too, because a lot of people forget, even doing energetic work or spiritual work, branding the process of what you do in a unique way can differentiate you from everybody else. I helped Dr. Julia Lewis. You saw her giving life back to the chronically ill. She wasn't able to describe how she did that. So we branded her process the melting point. It's the point at which the clots in the blocks in the body and the energy system melt, right? So that's her work, the melting point. And now she gets to go and talk about the melting point. And that kind of brings it to life, what felt previously abstract to people in a whole new way. So there's a lot of different dimensions of this process. And, a lot of times when I work with someone, we just spend an entire day and we just go into each of these pieces. And we're just like, or a few days if we're doing it as a group. And we just kind of dive in and sort of work all of these pieces out. So like I said, like every single piece, there's more to uncover. And, presenting it in a way you feel like, okay, this is the essence of who I am. And if someone encounters this online, whether it's through language or through the imagery or through the name of your business, that they actually get that transmission or almost energetic quality that you're coming across. And that's what really matters. So they don't feel like you're different than how you naturally are. And it's funny because sometimes people are these spiritual people and then you look at their website and they look like a used car dealership person, right? And that's no good, no bueno, right? So you want all of that to kind of match up to who you are and create such an experience that people are just drawn in.
Thank you.
Sure. So Dusty's asking, do you teach the how of social media marketing? Well, I mean, there are 2 pieces of the how. There's the tactical level, there's the strategic level, and there's the messaging level, 3 pieces, right? So a lot of people, when they say the how of social media marketing, they mean the tactical level. And the tactical levels, how do I, do this X, Y, or Z on Instagram or on Facebook or on LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever it happens to be. The strategic level is does that kind of visibility actually support my core business objectives and help me drive conversions, whether that's opt-ins or sales or other kinds of conversions. What are my core business goals through doing the social media? And then there's the messaging level. What is the experience that I want to create for people? How do I want them to feel? How do I want to draw them into the world? And even sculpting like a campaign, for example, if right now we're doing you all might be interested in this. We're doing a 21-day Facebook Live challenge. And I've got about 600 people in the group. I've just started announcing it a couple of days ago who are committed to doing like a Facebook Live every single day for 21 days. Now, I'm doing this huge engagement. Everyone's seeing me for 21 days. They're seeing each other for 21 days. The community's on fire. It's super hot. It's super fun. And, what I've realized is that there's just been, the engagement in my tribe over email and over blog. It starts to feel flat over a while. And I'm going to have some courses coming out in the fall. I've got a couple programs. So I really want the tribe to be super engaged right now before I go and try to sell anything. So they've been experiencing me. They've been experiencing the community. They've been receiving massive value. They've had their lives rocked by doing something a little bit out of their comfort zone before I even offer. So even within social media marketing, there's this sort of big rocks. Like we've got our Start With You launch in August, internal launch. We've got our big Experience Product Masterclass launch in November. And then I understand reverse engineer. How do I build my tribe ahead of that? How do I engage my existing tribe? How do I grow my tribe? How do I do value that kind of gets people interested or engaged with the thing that ultimately I'm going to invite them to do? So then there's the pieces in between, right? There's like, how do you actually use search or social to then drive new visitors and traffic and build retargeting lists? So I guess it's just so many factors of it. Yes, I do talk about that, but there's like when you ask how to, when you're thinking about the how-to, is it the tactical, is it the strategic, is it the messaging, is it the overall arc of the experience of your business and all that you're doing over the course of a period of time? So it's a bigger question, I think, than the one that a lot of people tend to ask. But when you start to dial it in, you can actually craft such an incredible relationship that evolves over time. And when you meet someone new and you want to like invest in that relationship and before they become BFF. And, right now I'm in the place of investing in my tribe through social media. So what are the periods of investment and what are the periods of asking or receiving from them? Yeah. So are there any other questions? I think we still got some time. I think this goes till 2:15. Is that right? Yeah. So we've got 18 minutes. Yeah. If there's any other, go ahead.
Marisa, I'm so loving this, and I want to continue with questions. And I also wanted, I'm very curious, especially about this 21-day challenge. If there's any links or anything you'd like to share with us about how we can connect with you further or engage in some of what you have to offer, I'm definitely interested in stepping in and just elevating my own brand. So yeah, I'd love to just hear from you, and then we can continue to open up for questions.
Absolutely. So I just put in a link in the chat there, and this is livechallenge.us. And that is a link to join our 21-day Facebook Live challenge. And once you're there, we send you like 52 content ideas. So if you don't know what to say on Facebook Live, we got you covered. And we send you a beginner's guide to getting started on Facebook Live. So basically, if you don't know how to do it, we teach you that. And anyone who posts on Monday, the first day of the challenge, we send a advanced guide as a gift for you. So you get the more advanced strategies on going live. So that's all there for you. I just posted into the chat. It's going to be super, super fun. And liveyourmessage.com is our core website where you can go and kind of check us out. We've got a lot of rich resources in our blog and a lot of gifts and stuff throughout the site. And yes, there's actually another really good question here from Anne, who's asking, what's some good baby steps to take when you're not ready for a full launch? This is a question I love. So I actually teach 21 different kinds of marketing campaigns to launch products, because what most people teach as the gold standard is the kind of Jeff Walker style product launch formula campaign, which is, the 3 pre-launch content videos and things and gifts leading into a sales video and some webinars and live streams and all of that. And a lot of people think that that's the only way to launch. And I want to share that I actually didn't launch like that until 5 or 6 years into my business, because that kind of launch usually only works if you've got 20 or 30 partners and you're able to drive maybe 10, 20,000 opt-ins or more at one time. And that's when that kind of launch works. And most people, when they're getting started, it's hard to really make that kind of launch be super successful. And the conversions a lot of times are only about 1% to 3% in that kind of launch. So there are other kinds of ways that you can launch products that will be a lot higher converting, that require a whole lot less resources. So one of the ones that I like to teach is called the reverse webinar campaign. And a reverse webinar campaign leverages a webinar crafted in a very specific way, but also has what I call a sequence after the webinar. So a lot of people teach that if you don't make sales on a webinar, then it's going to be really hard to make sales after the webinar. But what I found is with the right crafted webinar sequence after a webinar, like an email sequence, with a lot of times 10 emails in it, that you can have double or triple the sales that actually occur off the webinar that you do on the webinar. And webinar conversions oftentimes can be 5 to 10% of the people who are there live on the room. And then if you're doubling or tripling sales on the back end, a lot of other sales as well. So the conversions for a webinar sequence, or especially a reverse webinar sequence, are a lot higher. And there's a lot of other kinds of campaigns too. So one of my favorites is what I call the chatterbox campaign, which is showing up and engaging, everywhere you are, asking qualifying questions, starting conversations with just single questions in one-on-one conversations and in Facebook. I've filled my $28,000 like higher level, for people who are in the $100,000 to $1 million range mastermind, just through Facebook, one-on-one marketing, asking people a question that said, I'm curious, what are you doing to grow your business? Or are you in any programs or masterminds? What are you doing to grow your business? I got into conversations with people that turned into longer conversations. So it didn't feel like marketing. I was like getting into conversation with them. It's like a simple one with the right qualifying question that's, starts a conversation, can be super effective. There's summit campaigns, challenge campaigns, giveaway campaigns. There are what I call give them what they want campaign, which is based on surveys. There's the discover what they want campaign, which is based on an assessment. So if you do high level premium work, that can be really good, because the right assessment, if it's a personality-based assessment, for instance, my student Melissa Seaman has one called Discovering Your Soul Gifts, what kind of soul gift you've got. The interesting thing about a assessment is it follows the structure of an enrollment conversation. So an enrollment conversation, it's helping to determine who are you, someone can kind of determine more about themselves, where they are, where they want to go, what's in the way, and why they really want to get there. So the right assessment can oftentimes set up a relationship where you can sell people into a paid discovery session, or craft a sequence that would then invite them into a discovery session later on, or a free one. So there's a lot of different kinds of campaigns in there. And what I find is the secret to marketing is doing the right campaign at the right time and understanding, like reverse engineering your success. So if you want to make $10,000 from a marketing campaign and it's a 2% conversion rate, and most internet marketing campaigns range from 1 to 5% conversion. So say it's a 2% conversion rate, understanding exactly how many people that you need to reach at 2% conversion at your price point to hit 10,000. And then what kind of campaign will get you that reach, or what series of campaigns? Because a lot of times when you know a few different kinds, you can have like 3 campaigns working together that aren't a full-scale product launch, but that allow you to reach some people over here at a 20% conversion rate because it's one-on-one, some people over here at a 5% conversion rate on a webinar, some people over here, through an assessment from your website or a fast result freebie from your website. And that kind of stacking of campaigns tends to be a lot less intimidating than a full-on, product launch. So I hope that answered your question, but there's a lot of, it's a big question in terms of what steps to take for a full launch. But I guess the main steps is to understand what kind of marketing campaign you want to do, to realize that there's a lot of campaigns outside of the standard product launch formula style launch that most people equate with launches. They think it's synonymous. choosing one kind of launch or two or three if you want to use stacking, methods to sell a product, and then reverse engineer your success. So you understand what kind of reach you need and whether you form partnerships with people to get that reach, or you use paid advertising, or you engage your existing list through email. That's how you can kind of get something out there. It's a more technical question. But I do a lot more than branding. So I do a lot of helping people with their business strategy and their marketing, as you can tell. And those are the questions we're getting. So rolling with it. So I think, oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you there.
Hey, beautiful. Well, sometimes it happens on these calls where it's just, there's so much covered and so much to digest, like so much just great, juicy content, that there is a sense of kind of completion, around the hour mark. I'm absolutely happy to stay on the line if there are more questions for Marisa, especially around the content that she covered, but also I love that there's these questions that are just in general coming up around online presence. So we'll stay on for a few more minutes here. We're technically on for another 10 minutes, but I just wanted to take a moment before we dive back into questions just to thank you all for being here. It's just been a beautiful group. And beautiful questions, and so lovely the way that you were all engaging with Marisa. I was taking furious notes, so I feel like I also just learned a lot. And just a little reminder, because I know some of you are calling in, some of you might be watching this later on our YouTube channel. So links to connect with Marisa. One is her live challenge, livechallenge.us, which is her 21-day Facebook Live challenge. I've been wanting to do Facebook Live challenge myself for a while, so I just signed up for that. Free, fun, and includes a wonderful Facebook group that Marisa created to support your process and getting out there with your live videos. And also liveyourmessage.com. Another great way to just kind of enter in with Marisa, and it's just delightful. I've been on Marisa's, kind of been receiving lovely emails from her for a while, and it's really lovely. She's lovely to be in communication with. So liveyourmessage.com. So let's go ahead and open it up for a little bit more in terms of questions. You have this amazing opportunity to be here on this call in this moment, in this time, in this moment in your path, in this moment in your time in your business, to be here with Marisa and to really ask any question. Nothing's off the table. It looks like we have a couple that came in while I was talking. So Marisa, I'll go ahead and hand it back over to you.
Well, I'm unmuting Anne just in case we want to dialogue about that. But she's saying, in your opinion, is it possible to build a 6-figure plus business without using Facebook? And yes, and yes. And I actually recommend for most of I've got 2 year-long masterminds. One is for people who are under 6 figures and one is for people over. And for pretty much everyone under 6 figures, I don't actually recommend leveraging Facebook as the primary tool. And what I find is that online marketing can be a shield to actually have real conversations with real people. And if you want to build your business the quickest, the best way is to start to understand your customers better than they understand themselves. And even if you're not sure what it is that you're working on, and you're not exactly sure how to message it and how to package it into offers, simply talking to people around what it is that you do is the best way to start. That's what I call the Chatterbox campaign. And there's very specific tools around the Chatterbox campaign. But even if you don't really know what it is that you're doing and you start just asking people questions around your topic and getting into conversations and hearing the language they use and then using that in your language, I recommend what I call a captive audience campaign, which is local speaking as well. Mm-hmm. Speaking locally is one of the most incredible ways to build a tribe. And then chatterboxing. I mean, I know people who have $250,000 businesses just by showing up and being awesome everywhere they go and never discounting the question, so what do you do? Having a great answer in the way that I showed you how to craft today. And then, being expansive and energetic and fully you in every interaction. And really being kind of methodical with follow-up. So many people meet people who can change their lives all the time and they don't follow up with them. And, just being really conscious and aware and starting to even mine your own value network and contribute to the people in your lives, and then see the kinds of contributions that come back. Not that you're giving in order to get, but I do have one core value behind our business, which is a quote from Zig Ziglar, which is this: you can have everything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And I find that when you help so many people get what they want, it comes back to you in such a big way. And that's just awesome. So most of the time, like when it comes to building that initial business, I don't even recommend going on Facebook, other than maybe you can kind of leverage Facebook groups that you're in, and just, you can leverage live streams. You can kind of use social media posting just to build awareness around what you do, but it's not at all necessary. There are much better ways to do it in terms of being in person with real people, having real conversations. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So M. Ramsey's got a couple of things she said. She said, I'm still in the traditional work world, but I'm hungry for moving into self-marketing and working for myself. I know it's a big jump, and when you do, you will never go back, I will say. And she says, I'm stuck in the wanting to reach everyone place. I have so many tools over such a long time and struggle to become laser-like in my message. I'll definitely be working on finding the core thing that I offer, no matter what a specific modality I'm working with or population that I'm working with. Yeah, that's a really great question. It's kind of what I call finding that true north business. So a lot of times with the way people teach niching is about finding a very hyper-specific idea that'll work and be profitable in the marketplace. And it is important to kind of come up with an idea that's going to meet the 7 criteria of a profitable niche. But before you get to the 7 criteria of a profitable niche, I love to lead people through both their story and their background and their experience, as well as their superpower gift, or what is that unique ability that you uniquely have. Because when you actually are able to language that in the precise way, my gift is translate essence into form. That's my superpower. And as you can see, I do that through the branding and messaging work. I do that through the business training and mentorship that I do, helping other people translate it for themselves. I do this in almost everything that I do. When you're able to uncover that core gift of yours that you've been doing almost since you were a child, whether you knew it or not, the thing that might have gotten you in trouble, it's so powerful because that gift can take many forms and contexts in terms of having an online business or an offline business or a business that does both, because really, you can build probably any number of profitable businesses around that core gift. But identifying the gift is powerful because it allows you to try out different ideas, get started ideas, I call them, for a short period of time. And one of them may not work, but that leads you closer to the next, which leads you closer to the next. It's the iterate your way to awesome cycle that I teach. You've got an idea, right? And then you take action on the idea, which builds momentum that gives you greater clarity, that allows you to redefine the idea, right? That allows you to have more and better ideas, right? When you do this, that's how you can start in this upward cycle of growth and development. But I find that when you find that true north direction that you have, which is the gift beneath the gift beneath the gift, it's the gift that kind of unifies all the other gifts. And a lot of people mistake that gift. For example, people tell me, I'm great at researching, I'm great at organizing. I'm like, nope, that is a skill and ability that you developed to accentuate your core gift. So I happen to be very good at getting things done. But I could say that's my core gift, but it's not. Because I'm so committed to translating essence into form, I've become this incredible producer and implementer of visions, right? But many people, it's easy to confuse the gift of producing and implementing people's visions as the core gift, which is that translation process of finding and uncovering the essence and then translating into form. But other people can actually produce and implement the vision. And now I've been able to build a team around some of these other ancillary gifts that I've developed to support the main attraction gift. And a lot of times it's something that's kind of buried deep in people's work. So when you find that, and I've got a lot of processes that lead you through to finding that, and then you can even from there figure out what's your mega niche. You can figure out what's your micro niche, the bigger picture bucket or industry, and then the more square within that you want to claim, that little spot that you want to claim. Then it's a really, I think, an empowering approach because it allows you to really understand that this gift that you have can take so many forms. And even though you're choosing one form for the time being, ultimately, even as you change, as the market changes, as the world changes, as technology changes, as long as you're in touch with that core gift, you can always, translated it into a new form. So let's see. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Marisa.
You're welcome.
I'm just reading to see. Oh, good. It looks like people are taking lots of notes. Looks like there's a question about developing story. And is that what you were just chiming into, or you were just talking to M. Ramsey?
No, I was talking to M. Ramsey. So it's someone's asking about developing a story with all the pain that they may be experiencing. Yeah, I really, I've been teaching storytelling since the beginning, because I spent 7 years as a documentary filmmaker and really telling people stories. And I think story is the path for connection. All marketing is storytelling. And by the way, I did want to share my deeper definition of marketing. A lot of people see marketing as client attraction or conversion. But for me, marketing is the process of helping people develop the attitudes, beliefs, and conditions they need to make a change in their life that they want, but they haven't been able to say yes to otherwise. So it's that first step in transformation, which is the ability to make a commitment to a desire. And that's what marketing is. It's helping people create the beliefs and the attitudes they need to make that condition, as well, that commitment, as well as the conditions for it. And once people say yes, then they can begin on the transformational journey. But the transformation starts in the marketing process with the yes, and how you educate and guide them to that yes is incredibly powerful. And by looking at marketing in that way, for me, it's one of the most transformational things that you can do, because you're able to guide someone to a yes they've already had in their heart, or a yearning that they've had, and actually commit to it. And so many people will spend their lives dancing around the commitment. And your story is such a powerful way to a tool within that, because you're able to show how you have done this a lot of times in your own life. And the interesting thing about the brain is it doesn't know the difference between actually doing something and experiencing it through a story after the fact. So when you're able to put someone into an actual situation that's got the five senses, sight and hearing and taste and smell and touch in it, actually a real scene, not just a description of a scene. A lot of people tell and not show, but when you really show and situate your story within time and within space, with a beginning and an end, where you can touch things in that space around you, it's powerful in that way. And it also shows how you were not perfect. You didn't always have the answer, and if you were able to do it, that they can do it too. And a lot of the best stories answer people's objections and concerns, so later on they become more open to the process. And yes, it is about what you're saying about the pain, right? Being able to access the pain that people have to create the commitment to change, that people have to have a reason. And they are twice as motivated by pain as by pleasure. So I always like to talk about it as the lotus flower in Buddhism has its roots in the mud. So marketing, the transformation that you offer, has its roots in the mud of human experience. And being able to dance with both the mud of human experience as well as the lotus of transformation afterwards is such an important, polarity to be able to dance with in a way that's authentic and not manipulative. So sharing your story and not pretending to have it all figured out, and letting people see your vulnerability, because people want to learn from people who've fallen on their face and made mistakes. I mean, if you think about climbing to Mount Everest, you're not going to choose the guy that, every single time had pure, blue sky days with no storms. You want the one who had to actually battle a freaking storm coming in the descent, who thought he was going to die and made it through, because then that no matter what happens, that person is equipped to serve you, on that treacherous journey. And whatever treacherous or scary or, a transformational journey that you're taking people on, your pain and your struggle shows them that you can guide them through the things that they know they'll experience. And the biggest reason people don't buy is not time or money. It's the value they see in you and the belief in themselves that they can do it. So your story shows your value, and it also shows the belief in yourself. And value, credibility itself, is actually a combination between humanity, like your human experience, and the actual, value that you deliver. So a lot of people forget about the human part in their delivery, so they don't actually build the real credibility.
Thank you so much for that reminder of how powerful it is and beneficial it is for everyone to use stories. That's one of the things that I often cut myself short and don't share my story when I'm out there teaching. And I can see now that it's a disservice to everybody. to not share some of the deeper journeys. So that's awesome. We're going to complete in a moment, and what I'd like to do is in a moment, we're all going to take another big breath together, and I'm going to unmute you so that we can all hear each other, which is always really fun. But I just wanted to take a moment before we take that breath to just give such a big, big gratitude to Marisa for taking this time to just gift this class to us and to our community. And I know that she gifted this class and this time because she's a support to all of you and to a support to women change makers actually making change, and to do that by being seen more, being heard more, and rising up kind of beyond the noise. So thank you so much, Marisa, for being a stand and for taking a stand with our community of powerful women. Let me go ahead and unmute everybody, and I've got my candle here, and let's just go ahead and complete our time together with a big, deep, integrating breath in and out. And let's just do one more deep breath in and out. Beautiful. My intention for all of you is to take this information and connect with Marisa and the ways that we gave you to connect with her. You can also find her on Facebook and stay connected to the FemTalks community. And my intention is that you integrate all of this and move back out into your families and your communities and your clients, rising up even bigger, even bolder, even more deeply with your message. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right.
Much love.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa, for transforming essence into form so beautifully today.
Thank you. It was great to meet you, Usha, and all of you.
Thank you.
Be well.
Yes, fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Lots of love.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.